Hello, and today we're playing Hearthfire. We're about to go into Tarwank's perspective now. A cold wind blew. Even on the outskirts of town, it remained frigid. I grunted under my breath, growling as I took one step after the next through thick snow. My hands were stained shades of dark crimson and lighter pink, and blood had seeped through my white fur. I hated this. I could feel it against my skin as it crusted between my fingers. It sat behind me, dragged a same-colored stain streaking through the snow. The guilt I feel weighs heavily on my shoulders, but I have no other choice. My father would not hear otherwise. I was already on thin ice with him. I could not afford to disobey now. It did not alleviate the pit in my stomach. Thinking life would never sit well with me, my mind preoccupied with the dead weight that sat behind me. The weight swayed gated on my ears, but I could not afford to hold it on my back. I did not want to walk through town with blood-stained clothes. Following the worn path brought me back into town. The snow was lighter here, my footsteps unencumbered. Good. The faster I complete this task, the sooner it will be over. A few heads turned. Curious eyes watched me pass by. Some eyed the bloody bag, some stared at me. The latter was familiar. I was used to it. Distracted myself, I smiled as I thought about where I would be headed next. Old buildings passed by quickly as I lost myself in reflection. I did not have much free time recently, having learned to savor what private moments I could. Step away from prying eyes, I pushed her to the corner trade shop. Bells jingled as I pulled open the wooden door, an ink almost dislodging it from the hinges. I should be more careful. The old buildings, you are not as sturdy as my home. A short, white-furred figure moved behind the countertop. They must have heard me enter as a pair of fluffy ears perked. Tarwank! A cheery voice chimed. An old marble fox wandered his way around the box zone and sold merchandise. Hello, Panak. His large pointed ears went up at the sound of his name, a broad smile breaking out over his muzzle. What brings you here? What brings you by the day? Here for some of your usual treats? Looking for Yuka, perhaps? Even though the name twists my tail, I set my head. Pulling a bag from behind me, I sold it to the smaller fox. I'm here to sell my cats. Oh, now this is a surprise. He scooted closer, taking the edges of the bag from me. Panda underestimated the weight that sat nearly pulling him to the floor as it went down with him. Whoops, I forgot that I'm not nearly as big as you. The fox peered into the contents, looking around, nodding contentedly shortly after. I was honestly expecting a second fist from you. Has your father been having you pick up hunting again? I grimaced at the bald-faced truth. It is as you say. Well, don't worry about it now. I'll get you all set up and forward the payment. He paused, the fox halfway into trying to pick up the heavy sack again. Can you help carry that to the scale, if you don't mind, my boy? With a grunt and a nod, I easily scooped it up by the neck with one hand. I grimaced as a few dollops of blood leaked to the floor below. Punda must have noticed my expression, the fox smiling sympathetically. It's nothing a mop and bucket won't fix. Besides, I won't have the son of the chieftain running around cleaning floors. I quit, teeth gritting together at the mention of my station. Another thing I disliked was the automatic reference of the townspeople upstairs they would give me as I walked by. He waved at me to drop the bag on the scale, so that I did without question. It clanked softly, springs bouncing as the dial wobbled back and forth unsteadily. It didn't bother to stare at the dial as Puna scrutinized it. Waity, he chimed with a chuckle. I'm sure that that'll make quite a few villagers happy. It's been a while since we've had a good a good venison stock. Glad to be of help. He could pick up on the sincerity in my voice, old Fox's ears swiveling back. You want to talk? His voice was gentle as he moved to pat my shoulder, difficult considering his stature. It's hard having a dad that doesn't get along with you. I tried not to think of it. With what happened to your mother, well, it felt my chest constrict. It's the same he doesn't treat his boy better. There was a disappointment in his voice as he shook his head. I did not understand why, but his words were soothing. My breathing returned to normal as my shoulders relaxed, and I gave the fox a slow nod. It is difficult living without her. I did not talk about it. He let out a soft sigh, closing his eyes. Well, I won't pry further. How about we get you washed up, The water spigot is over there if you need to get your hands clean. There was disappointment in his voice as he shook his head. I did not understand why, but his words were soothing. My breathing returned to normal as my shoulders relaxed, and I gave the fox a slow nod. It is difficult living without her. I did not talk about it. He let out a soft sigh, closing his eyes. Well, I won't pry further. How about we get you washed up, The water spigot is over there if you need to get your clothes clean. I gave him an affirming grunt before heading to the sink in the back corner. The crimson poured into the metal sink, discoloration fading from my fingers. A few pumps of soap handled the rest of it. The old fox had moved in the meantime, trotting to one of his countertops. I could hear the clinking of glass as he fumbled around our side. Well, I've got something new, if you want to try it. I was not through with the prospect, but it was best not to be rude. Wiping the worst of my hands off on a nearby tower, I moved closer to see what grasped in his hands. What is it? Managed to get a small shipment of rock candy. We've even got your favorite color. The rough, square glob of crystals on a stick caught my eyes. They were a deep navy blue with lots of colorations where the light shone through. Since you went through all that effort, why don't you take a few on the house? His bushy tail flipped back and forth, the fox smiling up at me as he gestured with his outstretched hand. I was not used to such generosity. I could feel the warmth of embarrassment as I reached out. I will take one. You sure? You can have the rest if you want. It would not be fair. Nonsense. I know about that sweet tooth of yours. And the disgruntled noise escaped me as I averted my gaze. It was embarrassing, but he was right. I enjoy sweets more than I should. It was the reason behind my spanning waistline. I suppose I could take a few. I tried to sound confident with my choice, but my voice did not cooperate. It drew a titter from the old fox, his smile growing. There's a boy I know. My expression screwed up. Boy, I will not. You're hardly a year beyond your coming of age, Tom Wack, he said warmly before adjusting his vest. Besides, I've known you since you were just a little fluffball of a cub. There. Penna laughed in amusement, a raspy sound that seemed to take the air out of him. Don't change, Tom Wack. I failed to see how having a sweet tooth was good. It's not that amusing as it may be. Call me old-fashioned, but you've got a leather hair on your shoulders, and a hard gold in that big body of yours. Cut from a different cloth than your father, to be sure. But don't mind me. His bushy tail flipped back and forth behind him, a amused titter coming from the fox. Just the dollar rings of an old man. He tenderly pushed the candy into my open hand, the plastic crinkling as he closed my fingers around him. Anyway, if you're looking for my boy, he's probably back at the bar. Shouldn't be long until he's off his shift and can hang out with you. Ah, thank you. It's not a problem, son. I know how excited he gets to see you. I chuckled awkwardly, trying not to display any overt emotions. As pleasant as Yuka's father is, I did not want to reveal too much. there were too many things that could go wrong. This sounds small, and word travels fast. It eventually reached my father. Well, I spent enough of your time blabbering. Timosai said hello. Oh. He had thought well of himself as I attempted to leave, nearly causing me to trip on my feet. Yes. Consider it presumptuous, but would you like to spend the evening with us tomorrow? The question left me stunned. How should I answer? I have attended dinner with others as part of my station, but this was different. Considering the quality of the bug you nabbed, I'm sure I can cook up something delicious. I suppose. I'm free that day. It should not be a problem. He let out a quiet exhale, his expression contemplative. It's only a suggestion. You don't need to take me up on it, son. Just know that you got a spot at our table, so you decided to join us. A blooming swell of sentimental warmth welled inside me, and a familiar feeling filling my chest as I stared for several seconds. It is not much, but only two words formed in my mind as I let them slip from my lips. Thank you. My answer seemed to satisfy the old fox, giving me a curt nod. Tell me if you enjoy the candy. I'll be sure to have more later. You're too kind. I will see you later. The old fox was content with my answer, giving me a short wave, one that I returned. The wind did not seem as cold as it once was. The sun was warm as it peeked through the clouds above. I had pocketed the curious candy except for one. Peeling the plastic back, I gripped the base of the stick, giving the crystallized candy a curious glance. Wild candy. I have never heard of it. Experimentally, I popped the end of it into my mouth. Sugar instantly dissolved onto my tongue, giving me a momentary rush. I could taste the blueberries. Promise, it was bold and the flavor coated my tongue as the crystal swung. I could not stop the pleased hum that rumbled out of me. I could tell that my tail was wriggling behind me. Luckily, there was nobody to witness. Punish's words still resonated inside of me. It was something that I needed to hear. I was very thankful for that and the treats. I squinted my ears. Experimentally, I popped the end of it into my mouth. Sugar instantly dissolved onto my tongue, giving me a momentary rush. I could taste the blueberries. Promise, it was bold and the flavor coated my tongue as a crystal swing. I could not stop the pleased hum that rumbled out of me. I could tell that my tail was wiggling behind me. Luckily, there was nobody to witness. Punish's words still resonated inside of me. It was something that I needed to hear. I was thankful for that, the treats. I squinted my eyes as they adjusted. It was much darker inside. As I walked, the old floor smelled like varnish creaking under my feet. It was enough to make me think I might fall through. Thankfully, this was not the case. Previous experience had proved otherwise. Several bottles of alcohol glittered on the shelves along the back of the bar. Even though I had just come of age, this was a familiar place. Many childhood moments occurred here. The bar was owned by Yuka's mother. She was a stern but fair woman, very different from her husband. Whether my own mother was nearly the opposite of once was. Aside, short of slumping, while the sugar from the white candy helped, it could not wholly stave off darker thoughts. Yuka. There was no immediate answer. My mouth questioned and creasing into a frown. Are you here? A clatter came from the back room, and a series of expletives sounded from a familiar voice. I'll be out with you in a second, jeez. A growl of frustration followed by the cascading clink of glasses. I could hear spraying water as well. It sounded like Yuka was fighting with whatever he attempted to watch. I could not tell who was winning the war. The spray was thrown back into place, the metallic thud echoing. Even though I was not in the room, it was easy to tell what was happening. It was a perk of the wolf. He was anything, but not predictable. Now what? He stopped mid-sentence as he spotted me by the door. A mug was in his grip, a rag sticking out and over the lip. His face instantly turned red as he glanced away, his voice catching in his throat. Oh, sorry. He coughed, clearing his throat, even though the scowl had vanished, the warmth in his cheeks remained. Having a bad day? You could twitch, shifting nervously, while his hands tracing along the edge of the polished board. It's fine. I've just been busy. His voice cracked on that last word. The boy scrambled to clear his throat. He was usually nervous, but he seemed to be all right, on edge. Is your mother here? Huh? No, see. He cut himself off, shaking his head before thucking his mother into the countertop. What are you doing here? His voice softened, the wolf dropping the edge as he let out an exasperated sigh. You could look exhausted as if he had not slept well last night. The edge of his eyes were reddish pink with subtle bags beneath. Looking for you. My own voice was soft, tender. My steps caused the floor to creak as I closed the distance between us. Hands wrapped around the wolf's shoulders, his beautiful green eyes looking up at me in surprise. He fell to me, and my arms wrapped around his tiny body. A quick look showed that the boy was empty, no sound other than the breathing between us and the wind that blew inside. Tawak, he muttered under his breath. I could feel the wolf shudder, his soft fur bristling for only a moment. There was a tenderness to him, despite being in my arms. He remained stiff and awkward. There's something the matter. He seemed tense. It was no secret that he was really upset about things. He was emotionally volatile, and it was something that I was familiar with. My hand stroked downward, tracing the fabric of his shirt before pressing into the small of his back. He wore his emotions on his sleeves, but I kept mine hidden. I could not afford to have emotional outbursts. My strength alone is enough for restraint. You can have her. The wolf stepped in my arms. I could feel him starting to nuzzle against my chest. There was a twist of his hips, a subtle signal that his tail was beginning to wag. His nose worked its way up to my neck, the top of his muzzle, tugged under my chin. It was an affectionate embrace, one I was intimately familiar with, this male in particular. He was only this way when something bothered him, but I did not question why. Instead, I gave him the affection he needed, checking again to see we were alone. I scooped my fingers under his chin. He looked surprised, his eyes widening as they locked with mine. He kissed pressed between our lips, whatever tension he had been carrying melted as the snow in the summer sun. His arms lifted, wrapping around my neck as he clung to me and whistling. Whine came from him, quiet, needy. Sorry. My ears perked at the wayward apology. What for? He stopped mid-sentence. I could feel his head shake left and right under my chin, both having tugged it underneath once more. Nothing, never mind. This was the first time he had clammed up like this. As overtly emotional as he could be, the reasoning behind it was anything but. We did not need to speak. My hand tucked behind his head as the portable targeted me. He seemed to appreciate the gesture, his tail tucking in as he shuffled closer. Now that I'm here for you. His breath hissed at that moment, his ears folding back against his skull. It was only for a moment, however, as if a brief flash of something I was not supposed to see. Huh? The wolf seemed surprised as I pulled back, his eyes focusing as he brought his gaze down. In front of him hovered a thick of rock candy, the stick perched between almost two large fingers. Candy? You're serious? A smile broke out across my muzzle. It makes me feel better. He snorted indignantly, but I could tell he took my offer seriously as he eyed the crystallized sugar. Did Dad give you some? He did. He, yeah, he's been raving about his latest shipment all week. He's been looking to offload the stuff. His person screwed up as if coming to a revelation. You didn't waste all your money on Kenny again, did you? If I did, I told Cheeky, and I knew my smile was devious as I cut a brow at the flustered wolf. You serious? How do you plan on getting us out of town if you keep blowing all your money? He scoffed, his hands diving into his pockets as he grumbled discontentedly under his brow. However, Yuka's eyes remained on the candy still firmly offered in his direction. He let out a frustrated growl, seeming aimed more at himself than me. With a flick, he snatched a raw candy from my grip, his wrist a blur. Stuffing over to the nearby bar, he hopped up onto the edge of it, legs dangling loosely as he fiddled with the wrapper. He popped the end into his mouth, giving it a suckle or two as he pretended he wasn't enjoying it. I knew better. There was its frame behind him. His tail was wagging, swishing back and forth as the fluffy appendage bonked between beer taps. It's not bad, he muttered, keeping his averted gaze on the end of the bar. Probably would like a different flavor, though. There was scoff, giving one of the old bar stools a lazy kick. What would that be? He thought the question over, humming softly on his brow. I'm pretty partial to mango, though strawberries can work at a pitch. Why not ask your father for some? The old bar top pretty dangerously as I leaned to sit over the edge. Nearby Yuka shot me a critical glance, one that grew more desperate the more weight I applied. Instead, I stepped onto the nearby stool, deciding it had a more appropriate load-bearing capacity. Yuka scoffed, getting back to my question. Because he'll charge me for it. I can't seem to get a free ride around here. He started suckling on the end of the stick, flashing me a look. Unlike you. I was not too fond of his tone. It sounded accusatory, my muzzle creasing into a frown. Honestly, it's like they forgot I'm their kid. I did not answer these things. He looked as if he was seconds away from a knee-jerk reply, his mouth hanging open, having taken a breath. Instead of the short response I expected, he seemed to deflate, pulling the sucker from his mouth before stopping his shoulders. Yeah, you don't. He gave the stool another cat. The seat spun into circles, a small tuft of fluff, where the leather cracked, zooming round and around. Probably why it bothers me. Why do you not tell me these things? I asked, unable to keep the prick of hurt from my voice. I thought that we were. I paused, holding my words, my ears swiveled once more to check for eavesdroppers before continuing to speak. Are we not a couple? Yuka twiddled with a wooden stick in his hands, padded thumbs sliding around the ball at the base. It's complicated. You know that, Tomac. But, yeah, we are. He could pick up on my subtle disappointment with his half-committal answer, the wolf letting out a short exhale. Hey, it's not my fault. He put a defensive hand on his chest, fingers splaying. I'm not the one slacking off here. I've been saving money since I was put to work. You think I do not do the same? Your parents will pay you. My father does not. He seemed stymied as he fumbled for answers. The chair squeaked, the sound echoing an otherwise silent bar as he gave it a few more punts with a foot. Whatever. Is there something wrong? The end of his foot caught the back of the chair, stopping it dead mid-swing. What do you mean? You're acting strangely. Yeah, like that's a nice thing to say to me. And you are fidgeting more than usual? He stuck on the end of the rock candy indentedly. I could hear the crunch, the crystals between his molars. He didn't respond, the seconds turning into minutes as we sat silently. Should I go? He did not That he did not answer my question immediately left a pit in my stomach. Just as I moved to stand, I could feel something upon my hand. Yuka was holding it. His muzzle was creased in a frown as he stared at me, regarding me with a curious expression. Okay, so I'm steady. Are you happy? No, I am not. I do not understand. Why is it difficult for you to talk to me? Am I intimidating? Again, he looked as if he was holding something back, a subtle puff on his cheeks, and a bite of his lips signaled as much. What was he hiding? I do not know, but my patience was running thin. Your father invited me to dinner. Not seeing to snap him out of it, expressing striking as he mentally reset. You did? Do you wish me to be there? What? I do not wish to antagonize. If you do not want me there, please tell me. He pulled a stick from his lips, tearing the last hard candy off with his teeth. I kissed you, didn't I? I do not understand how this answers my question. Would I kiss you if I wanted you gone? He muttered, clicking the stick against the side of the hard countertop. God, you're so dense. Get the bar stool again, the seat wobbling unevenly from the torture. I don't want you gone. I want to be gone from this town. He turned my hand, his smaller fingers lacing between mine and a squeeze of desperation. Why don't we leave? I balked, my hand pulling from his, even as his fingers chased after mine. What? Leave? We can be out here by the end of the day. Just you and me. I could not say this has not passed my mind. He had wanted to leave the village for years, maybe longer. Such a small town did not suit his ambitions. He had plans for higher education and a yearning to travel. Perhaps it was an oppressive atmosphere that irritated him. I could not say the same, beyond the responsibilities that were forced upon me. Tarmac, we can't be ourselves here. This city town keeps both of us down. I'm a nobody here. You're not much better off. But your parents. And cut him off guard, his expression shifting, guilt creeping to the edges as he grit his jaw. I'm thinking about you, Tarmac. They'll be fine. They'll understand, right? Why was he asking me? These are his pills, not mine. We do not need to be so fast. Why must we leave now? Because he stopped, catching himself before he could say anything further. His pointed ear flipped, his stick tapping growing louder over the edge of the countertop. Never mind. I'm just being stupid. He gave me a side eye. You're the son of a chieftain. Not like you can get up and leave. His words were not kind. I could hear discontentment with every word. He exhaled slowly and slid from his seat on the countertop. You're important or whatever. He raised his hand dismissively at me as he moved back around the countertop. Tossing the stick into the garbage, he scooped the mug back up and switched the rag end. He waved his hand dismissively at me as he moved back around the countertop. Tossing the stick into the garbage, he scooped the mug back up and switched the rag in it again. That does not mean I do not want to leave with you. I need more time. The seat creaked dangerously, the pole creaking as I lifted my weight. I do not understand the haste. Is there something wrong? No, he snapped, perhaps a little too fast. I'm just wondering, if not now, then when? He swung his arm out, gesturing wide before putting his hand on his chest. Tarmac, I want to get out of here. I don't like it here. There's nothing here for me. I'm just gonna be working for my parents forever. Dad wants me to take over his stupid shop as well. I want something else out of life. So, why don't you? Is this good enough for you? I knew the answer, but I could not bring myself to speak it. His lips thinned, eyes narrowing as they fixated on me. Yeah, fine. You have it better here anyway. I gotta get my shit cleaned up here. Can you come back later? He moved quickly, tail whipping around the door before vanishing. The sink started again, drowning out anything I could say to him from the other room. Why are you like this? I sighed, shaking my head. It is best to keep moving. I must remind myself that this will pass. It has not been the first time we have fought or disagreed. This will pass. Fishing another stick of white candy from my pocket, I placed it on the countertop with a sigh. He will find it eventually. Perhaps it will diminish his ire. I lingered for a while longer, giving the open door a long look before leaving. As I wandered, I grunted under my breath, stuffing my hands deep into my pockets. People are complicated. They have expectations that are hard to grasp. At least for me. If it was not disappointing my father, it was me frustrating Yuka. It seemed impossible to please. At least my wolf's smile was pleasant. It was a silver lining, one of my life's last few good things. The streets were clear of people and traffic was nearly non-existent. There was little to begin with. Where I have seen larger settlements before, Iskut was not one of them. Thankfully, home was not far from the town's edge. A familiar log cabin lay ahead, perched on the edge of the looming hill. It was far more elegant than the rest of the homes in Iskut. It could be considered luxury with twin pillars and a balcony outstretched beyond the living room doors. While it was not the most expensive home I have seen, it was enough to make me feel self-aware. Chiefs or not, living in such excess was not to my taste. When my father argued that our station as multi-generational caretakers of Iskut allowed it, my mother disagreed. She believed in a conservative way of life, one without excess. As I stared at the side door, a thoughtful rumble shook from me, my hands stuffed deep in my pockets. I did want to go in. As little as my father and I got along, the home's emptiness reduced it to only a house. Even though we have been fighting, I would rather spend my night in Yuka's bed than my own. The warmth of the cabin was a welcome respite from the wind. A quick kick of my boots knocked the worst of the snow from them as I stepped in. The silence stretched on, only punctuated by the crackling fire. For a moment I allowed myself to assume my father was at home. However, it was wishful thinking. I could hear heavy steps slowly approaching, only interrupted by a third out-of-place thumping. He must have been alerted by the sound of the door closing. My father stopped short of entering the room, his broad shoulders blocking the way beyond. He watched me down the bridge of his nose with a sharp gaze. It was intimidating, I would lie to myself if I did not feel like he was staring through my soul. So, he spoke, the rough tone enough to send a shiver of my spines out as it rang off the walls. You're back. The older bear snorted as he approached, eyes narrowed. What took you so long? I shook my head, trying to clear the numbing nervousness that clouded my mind. I was busy. With that? With what? This question came out before I could finish my sentence, causing me to balk. I was used to him being strict, but he seemed upset with me more so than usual. He got out with that Wasco boy again. His voice had unfamiliar disdain, a shortness that kept me on edge. Yes, I see. My father walked past me without care to the point where it sort of nearly collided with me. He tended to the fire, pulling a poker from the nearby stand before adjusting the logs. The flame crackled, a burst of smoke rustled up the chimney. I've been invited to dinner with his family tonight. You'll be doing no such thing. His voice was like the crack of a whip, causing me to flinch. He shook his head, interrupting whatever I was about to say. I've been far too lenient with you. A creepy chill crawled up my spine before spreading into my chest, making breathing difficult. You have obligations to fulfill, Tomback. You must take my place as the head of this village. Yet you have displayed no desire to fill this role. He threw the puzzle back into the basket. The metal wobbled back and forth, threatening to fall over and spill the rest of his implements. I tried being accommodating with your lifestyle. The second word was like a hammer to glass. I could feel my stomach started to tighten from anxiety. But enough is enough. Your dalliances are detracting from your duties. What do you mean? The words were forced, squeezing to get them out of me. My stomach was a churning sea. The reflection that he had used was enough to set me on edge. The Waska boy turned back to me as his brows furrowed. Do you think I'm not blind? My mouth hung open. Even as I attempted to answer, my father was talking, his growling voice rattling up into a rant. You sneak off with him every chance you get. How? My stubborn words were annoyed as my father continued to rant, chest bobbing, a few veins surfacing along his neck. I did not understand how he can be so selfless. You have the entirety of the town's fusing on your shoulders, yet you continue to play childish games. My father balanced his weight on his cane, leaning forward. He seemed to tower over me, looming as he watched down his muzzle, just mentally, his imposing stance making me feel small. You do not attend meetings with other tribes with me, and you have no interest in the responsibilities for your village, let alone your own home. The only things you seem to enjoy are eating and fishing. You neglect your duties in favor of fornicating with another man. His voice snapped, sending me back a step, my ears flattening as his words rang through the cabin. Something to say, boy? There was a dangerous growl to his words, as if daring me to say the wrong thing, to step out of line proven right. What was I supposed to say? How was I supposed to answer? One of my most tightly guarded secrets had been ripped from me, torn from deep inside, leaving a gaping hole behind. Nothing. I'm not surprised. I knew better than to respond with my true feelings. He was already angry enough. The Waska boy told me everything. I stood up straighter, my eyes widening. What? He told you? The squeaking sense of betrayal and dread caused my chest to constrict as I took a half step back. It felt as if my life was collapsing into itself, light and color being sucked from the corners of the world. Oh, he didn't hesitate. It didn't take much. He chuckled, an almost malicious sound as he tapped the end of his cane loudly onto the hard floor. And to think, he's just been placating me all these years, planning on leaving without a word. I thought it raised you better. He let out a low huff of a growl, the old bear leaning his weight onto his gnarled cane. Although I'm not surprised. Perhaps this is a consequence of your mother's influence. My insides twitched at the mention of my mother. She was a free spirit. She hardly heeded any word other than her own. It's no wonder her son has grown up to be just the same. Something inside of me snapped, the apprehension I was feeling flipping. Leave her out of this. He speaks. He motioned sarcastically towards me with a hand, sweeping it out as if to gesture towards a non-existent audience. Feeling like digging yourself deeper? Continue talking then. My fur bristled, my muzzle rippling as a bear phase of my father. He cared more about the prosperity of this village than the land it was founded upon. That is why she died. She did not want to see it despoiled. Controlling my breathing was as demanding as swimming, unstreaming winter rapids. It came out in sharp puffs, my heart pounding in my ears. What do you care? You did not shed a single tear at her funeral. My tears are not for the villagers to see, boy. I mourned her in my own way. Although I can see that you still haven't gotten your head on straight since her passing. The hole my father had torn inside me was quickly filled with something new. Hot, simmering rage. I could barely see straight as my hackles raised, my fists clenching at my sides, tendons bulging. My nails dug into my hands, points prickling, and some points pricking into my palms as I stood with unbridled anger, seeking comfort in other men as your coping mechanism undersupported. The end of his cane was like the drop of a hammer or an anvil as he moved closer, the sound ringing in my ears as my chest heaved. But you know what? His voice was barely above a whisper as he spoke over the crackle of the burning fire. You can have all the relations you want with other men, but the fact that our bloodline ends with you, that's what upsets me the most. Without thinking, my arm moved, and yet my fist never reached its destination. One of his large hands had snapped up from its perch on his cane, deftly catching mine by the knuckles. You don't think beyond your... His nails sunk into the back of my fist, causing me to let out a gasp of pain. You don't care about this village. They pierced deeper, the pain shivering through my flesh. He dishonored the Ayak name. My knees buckled, my arm quaking at his iron grip clenched around my knuckles. Despite the pain, I could feel the defiance welling in me, the urge to get one last word in against the man in control of my life. I did not see what mother saw in you. I stood senseless. My entire world had reset, my head ringing as it drowned out the sound of the fire. I had never been struck before. The experience was surreal. The subtle taste of iron started to fill my mouth, displacing the last tinge of blueberry. Numbly, I reached up, feeling over my lower lip. Blood. Ripples of blood trickled down my chin, droplets breaking free before falling to the floor. Crack looked almost as stunned as I was, his scowl having reset to a look of shock. Get out. The two simple words seemed to echo inside the room, a tone of grim finality that made my blood run cold. I have no desire for a disobedient son. Live your life somewhere else. He turned, his cane cracking against the hard floor like the tick of a clock. And then he was gone, leaving me in stunned silence. Seconds turned to minutes as I stood in shock, until it finally faded. Emotions crashed into me like an avalanche threatening to swallow me underneath. Hot tears welled in the corners of my eyes as my brow grew ragged. I stumbled outside, tripping over my feet as I walked. This wasn't supposed to happen. My mind was still rattled from the impact. It was as if something had been knocked loose and left behind in that house, a part of myself I would never get back. Still adrift, I wandered aimlessly down the path, my feet guiding me. The cold meant nothing. My entire body was numb. The only sensation I could feel was the pain in my lower lip. It was the only reminder that I was still alive as I shambled. My body slowed to a stop, momentum causing me to momentarily sway. The bar. It seemed that my feet had brought me back to my previous location. Sloughing forward, I stepped off the main street, passed around, and done so before reaching the back door. I didn't bother to knock, knowing it was unlocked. The water spray was louder inside the scullery than the bar, even if it seemed static to my ears. I'm not sure how long I stood in the doorway and watched. Watched as the wolf I called my lover worked, oblivious to the betrayal, oblivious to the irreparable damage he had caused. Dishes clattered in the sink, the wolf tossing his rag over the spigot as he set off the water in turn. He nearly jumped out his fur, eyes wide as he bounced on one foot, hands up in the air. Tawak! He sounded both surprised and angry with me, and an exasperated huff following his words. It didn't last long, his expression blank as he stared at my face. "You're covered in blood." He looked shaken, the color draining from his face. "What happened?" The apprehension in his voice told me enough that he knew. He knew what I would go home to, but he did not tell me. Either through cowardice or neglect, he failed to warn me. Why? My voice was hoarse, rasping out of me as if I had not spoken in days. The question caught him off guard when his pointed ears folded back. "Why did you tell him?" I elaborated, having to push to get the words out of me. My eyes brimmed with hot tears as I stared at my apprehensive lover. That he did not move to comfort me weighed heavily over my shoulders. I could feel emotions rolling inside me, anger, sadness, grief. My accusation confused him, his brows shifted between shock and outright confusion. However, it seemed to click after a moment. I could see it in his eyes. "What do you mean? Why did I tell him?" He immediately defended himself, his voice rising in pitch as he put a hand over his chest. "He came in this morning and cornered me." His face was slowly turning red. Was it anger or embarrassment? I could not tell. I did not care. Without much thought, I had cornered the wolf, one boot stepping before the other until he leaned back against the sink. He cowered under my sides as I loomed over him, his bushy tail dipping back into the dirty water of the sink. I felt a sick rush of power as I stared down at him. His eyes were darting, already looking for an out, one that I would not give him. "Hey!" he snapped, hands gripping either side of the sink as he leaned back. I didn't know what to tell him. I could feel him shaking, his more diminutive body quivering beneath me. "Besides, I didn't think you wanted to leave anyway." "What do you mean?" My voice was devoid of emotion as I growled out the question. "You've been fighting me about wanting to move out. You've always been so privileged, so I thought you were okay with staying here. I'm just a nobody here, and you're somebody. Of course, you wouldn't want to go." A droplet of blood dripped from my muzzle, falling onto the front of the Yuka shirt, tainting the fabric crimson. "What did he do to you, Tarek?" I had enough of his false platitudes. His words were cut off as I instinctively grabbed his shirt's front, fabric bundled between my fingers as I hefted him roughly into the air with just one arm. It was simple, easy. He barely weighed anything. His legs kicked, bouncing off of my sides as if he were kicking a stone wall. I barely felt it. "I'm sorry," he repeated again, a loud whine to his voice as he dangled. "Please let me go." I could feel my fist curling on its own, my nails digging into my already tortured palm, as if my body channeled the rage and betrayal I felt into one motion. It seemed he spotted it too. As my arm reared back, he gasped, followed by a frightened cry as he curled in on himself. His tail flipped between his legs, sloshing soapy water as he flinched in desperation, ears pinned back as he braced himself for the inevitable. I could hear him sobbing, lifting my ears, breaking the rage-fueled spell I was under. Sure enough, the wolf was crying, tears streaming from his screwed-shut eyes. It dawned on me that I was passing on my hurt just like my father. Like fracturing glass, the rage within me shattered, my fingers loosened, and the wolf tumbled from my grasp. His rear crashed against the edge of the sink, threatening to dislodge it from the wall as metal squeezed in protest. I stepped back from Yuka as if he were something to fear. I wanted to say something or anything, to express my feelings of hurt and betrayal from someone who was supposed to love me. But the words would not come. And the only was as the fighting wolf quiet in the corner, having slinked away from me. A sense of shame forced me back, my feet back, backpedaling, away from the sight as I turned for the door and ran. I had lost track of time. The bleeding had finally stopped, blood having coursed over my lower lip. My tooth was also damaged at once pointed end had turned rough and blunt. I had no idea where I was going. Having left the town far behind me as I trudged through the snow. There was nowhere left for me. My hand gripped the front of my shirt as I choked back tears. Some spilled over, knees threatening to knuckle and drop me into the freezing ground. And yet I carried on in this world that I did not belong. Long shadows for the trees passed over dense flakes floating through the sky. The forest was silent. The wind had died off, leaving me to listen to the crunch of my boots through the ice. Warm air blew past my lips and puffs. The temperature was starting to drop below that. It was getting late. Even as a polar bear, I would not survive without shelter. My size and bulk would only get me so far in the chill of night. The trees started to thin, much to my surprise. Then we started to surface old ones. This place was familiar. The closer I approached, the more nostalgia washed over me. Was I being guided here? Almost as if to answer my thoughts, a cabin lay ahead. The lonely structure sat out in an overgrown clearing. An old wood pile was nearby, coated in layers of undisturbed snow. I remember this place. My grandparents used to live here. I remember it from my childhood, brought here for visits and to be babysat. Filled with a strange sense of awe, I approached the structure. The boards creaked quietly under my feet as I stepped onto the porch. Sure enough, dust caked the windows, obscuring the inside. Gripping onto the door's handle, I found that they opened readily. It had been locked. It had been left unlocked, as if beckoning me in. The accumulated dust hit my nose, forcing a sneeze out of me. The layer that caked the floor blew away, clearing the wooden paths as I closed the door behind me. It seemed that everything was undisturbed, frozen in time. At least the roof had not collapsed. If anything, it held solid against years of exposure to the elements. While the furniture seemed unreliable from deterioration, at least the fireplace was intact. A few logs sat nearby. Closer inspection revealed them to be dry-rotted. It was not only ideal, but it would at least seem temporary. But at least it would provide temporary heat for the night. The warmth was welcome. The fire roaring in the hearth, flames flickered, illuminating the darkened world around me. Exhaling, I sat cross-legged in front of the fire. My boots powdered by the snow had melted off them, forming a small puddle underneath. My fingers fell over my lower lip, tracing a painful cut that now adorned it. I would have to tend to it in the morning. If I'm lucky, there may still be a medical kit or supply somewhere. I saw a chuckle bubble inside me, and I expected a response to my situation. This may be for the best. I did not get along with others, and they with me. The betrayal and heartache I felt only reassured me of this. If I can learn to survive, perhaps I will only need myself. The heat from the fire caressed me soothingly, putting me at ease, at least for now. I would get through this. It was a mantra to myself more than anything. My eyes closed as I let out a long exhale, finally allowing myself to relax. I will survive. Tarak sat with his hands in his lap, fingers meshed tightly together. He refused to look at me, his gaze fixed on his reflection in the steaming spring water. I was alone for a long time. I hope you do not think less of me for that day. Tarak looked like he was about to melt into the water, same weighing his broad shoulders down. The bell sank to his chest, rounded metal poking slightly from the surface. That was a lot to take in. So you're the son of Iskit's chieftain? He hesitated before answering, as if my question was an accusation. Yes, I am. And you used to date Yuka? That one was hard to see. The two of them were nearly opposites. Yuka was a firecracker of emotions. Tarek kept his under wraps. Yes. He responded reluctantly, his bearded chin grazing the water as he sank further. There are few options for men like us in this place. We were lucky to discover the others' proclivities. You said you were going to leave the town. I don't really blame you. Your dad sounds awful. At the time, we were planning to leave. We were planning to move away. You could wonder this more than me. I had reservations. Reservations? Why? His rounded ear flicked, Tarek seemingly growing uncomfortable as he sifted in the water. It is responsibility that I was feeling from. It is a responsibility that I was fleeing from. I did not want to become chieftain. My father disagreed with this. His hands lazed under the water, thumbs locking together as the bear hunts in on himself. I love the land. I love my home. I did not want to leave at the time. You could sense this, and it made him angry. He did not understand. He frowned, watching his own reflection in the water. Yeah, I did not explain. Broken communication between boyfriends is a familiar topic that hits home. So, when your dad squeezed Yuko for information, the big bear looked hollowed out, his expression crestfallen. I thought he willingly told him everything. I was hurt. I blamed him. So that's why you were so angry with him in the basement. Yes. I regret my outburst. I saw him and did not know what to do with myself. When he became angry, it too made me angry. It sounds like it was just a repeat of that day. Both of them hurt with Tarek taking it out on Yuka. I don't think it helped that he antagonized Tarek, though. I hope you do not think less of me. I understand if you do, and he paused, the bear's ears falling back apprehensively. You wish to keep your distance from me. The words were a shock, forcing me to blink for several seconds. A feeling of burning indignance welled inside me, causing me to shake my head vehemently back and forth. Huh? Of course not. He seemed dumbfounded, his gaze lifting from the water to look at me curiously. Tarek, you were hurt that day. My voice was a soft whine, but I continued speaking anyway. Your dad disowned you. You thought your boyfriend betrayed you. Other people would have had a worse reaction than yours. I rolled at my neck, fingers squeezing around the back as I remember how well I handled my milk with toast in comparison to breakup. A small, tired smile started to form over his muzzle. Thank you, you are kind. I tried to walk into our conversation, drawing our attention toward the cave entrance. He could stood butt naked, the wolf frozen, half concealed behind a huge boulder. He looked like he wanted to bolt, but his arms wrapped around the boulder wouldn't allow him. Yuka. Tarek was first to speak, the bear having sat up in the water. And seeing his voice affected the wolf, the canine's ears holding back. What are you doing here? He stammered before shaking his head. His expression was shattering to the usual grumpy one I was used to seeing. I always come here after working out. Hallie just about kills me in her gym. I must get you here. He bit at his lower lip, pressing broadside at him, deflating his combative ego. Most of it, the wolf fidgeted in place, still clinging to his safety boulder. Why don't you join us? He blinked confused and turned his attention to me. Well, if you came all this way, why not take a soak? Tarek won't mind, right? Awkwardly, he nodded, the bear's head shaking up and down as his gray hair fur swayed. He could seem apprehensive still. His eyes drifted towards the entrance as he ran the offer through his mind. To my surprise, he moved away from his walk, stepping forward into the pool's shallow end. Fine. He cleared his throat, straightening himself up. I guess it would suck if I didn't relax for a bit. I didn't have a pony in this race, but I couldn't help but smile a little. The ex-boyfriend's remained silent. He cleared his throat, straightening himself up. I guess it would suck if I didn't relax for a bit. I didn't have a pony in this race, but I couldn't help but smile a little. The ex-boyfriends remained silent for a while, neither looking at the other. The air was awkward, but at least it wasn't tense, a far cry from Hallie's basement gym. How have you been? Yuka's eyes fluttered open, the wolf looking like he had almost dozed off in the water. Huh? How have you been? The bear repeated the question awkwardly, if not honestly. I've been good. Business is a little slow, but it's a small town. He shrugged his shoulders slowly, before dropping them back into the water. Did you move out? The question blindsided the apprehensive wolf, leaving him speechless. Huh? Like you planned. The bear elaborated his speech, stilted as if he did not want to spook the wolf at the other end of the basin. Oh man. He rubbed at his shoulder, fingers breaching the surface as he did. Tarak, I waited for you. The bear blinked in astonishment, sitting a little straighter in the water. A few weeks went by and nobody knew where you went. So I left. I did what I was planning to do. I took my car and got out of here. You waited for me. The bear seemed genuinely surprised, even a little mystified. Yeah, I did, but you never came back. Then, while you're here, you are not happy in Iskut. The wolf's expression screwed up, and for a moment, I thought he would unleash one of his patented snarky comments. I couldn't make it out there. He half crossed his arms as he leaned back, putting the back of his head against the smooth stone wall. The wolf's expression screwed up, and for a moment I thought he would unleash on one of his patented snarky comments. I couldn't make it out there. He half crossed his arms as he leaned back, putting the back of his head against the smooth stone wall. I packed all my stuff into my car and drove all the way to Montreal. Well, that kind of sounds like what I was going to do, if I had made it to my destination anyway. I tried keeping up with the college classes and a part-time job as a barista, but I couldn't cut it. The only thing that kept me from going homeless were my parents and Philip. He muttered a name, sinking a little into the water as his cheeks reddened. Philip. Why, you don't know, do you? Know what? Tomac seemed generally confused, the bear looking between us as he's trying to discern answers. We're... He stumbled with his words, the wolf scratching awkwardly at his teeth. He's, boyfriends. He looked about to strangle me, his brows nearly turning into 90-degree slopes as he glared daggers at me. It only made my smirk widen. There was no way he could catch me in the water if he wanted to take a swing. Yeah, thanks. Any other topics you want to answer for me? No, I'm good. I answered the sass palpable in my voice as I fell on my back, tucking my arms behind my head. I see you. I'm glad. You can blink, his eye evaporating like water in sunlight as he turned his attention away from me and to Tyler. Wait, what? That you were happy. We did not get along well. That's not entirely true. He seemed to catch himself, pausing momentarily as his ears lowered. We were stupid kids trying our best in a backwater town. At least I was a stupid kid. You always had your head on your shoulders. He mumbled quietly, forcing the words out of himself as he spoke. I was always jealous of that. Jealous? I do not understand. Yeah, Tomac, he said in exasperation, running a hand over his face and his pushing between his eyes. I was jealous. You had a lot going for you. You were important in this town. I kind of felt like I was living in your shadow. I'm just a wolf that got adopted by fearing foxes. This was not true. Well, it felt like it was. His hand had found his opposite arm, fingers looped around the side of it, nails dug in as he squeezed, the wolf looking more vulnerable than I had ever seen him. Sometimes I thought you dated me just out of pity. Why would I do such a thing? I don't know, because we were friends? Tarak had sat up, the bear waiting across the water as if it did not exist, the steaming waves parting across him. The disturbance sent me floating away with his wake as water sloshing off of his heavily muscled frame. Yuka apprehensively watched as the bear sat down in front of him. Tarak reached for the wolf's shoulder, only hesitating when he noticed Yuka flinch from him. I could see the hurt in his eyes, but it didn't stop him from gently wrapping his fingers around it. I care deeply about you. He spoke, his rumbling bass coming out in a solemn tone. I have had nothing but time to think, living alone for so many years. I was angrier than I had been in my life. My mother had been torn from me, my father had disowned me, and I thought you were to blame. He shook his head slowly, his weight head for swaying. You may have told my father about our plans, about us, but you were not the one who forced his reaction. He pointed a clawed finger to the scar that marked the left side of his muzzle. He did this on his own. It was his decision, his choice. You could look utterly mystified, the wolf at a loss for a response. The useful grumpiness that I had associated with him was gone. He gripped his arm tighter, tendons flexing over the back of his head. It looked like he was trying to avoid looking at that scar, eyes darting anywhere, but I kind of put two and two together, you know? After you left, that he hurt you. He cleared his throat uncomfortably, changing the topic. So you lived out there this whole time, huh? Yes. The wolf blinked in dismay. By yourself? Yes. He repeated again, his head slowly bobbing. A subtle smile formed over Yuka's muzzle, screwing up as he smirked. No wonder you're so attached to this water weasel. I found pulled taut across my muzzle as I glared at the wolf. I would have contemplated swimming right up to him and soaking him, but restraint stopped me from ruining the moment. He has been nice, yes. He reached out for me, fingers wrapping around the end of my tail, using it to pull me closer. It was hard to stay mad when he strode through my hair, that large hair festily losing from my hair. He could let out a dismissive noise, even though he watched us anyway. Tarak moved away from the wolf, giving him some space. Instead, he turned his attention to me. His large hands wrapped around me, hiking me into his lap and back against that round, solid belly. I couldn't help but giggle as his paws wandered over me, stroking over my chest, then down to my stomach. Ugh. He was rolling his eyes. Do you have to do that in front of me? I did not see the harm. The poor bear said with a toothy smirk, his eyes glittering smugly. You have a boyfriend now. I also have quests. I could feel my cheeks heat up at the sound of proclamation, and a certain spark of giddiness manifesting it. While I have enjoyed the implications, I wasn't sure this qualified as boyfriends yet. I don't go around making out with mine in public. Strangely enough, I could feel the wolf's tail wagging under the water as the pregnant disturbed it. Part of me desperately wanted to call him out on it, but I figured that temperance was a virtue in this situation. The three of us settled into the steaming pool, Tarak content with leaving me in his lap. He interrupted the stretched silence, his simple statement cutting through it like scissors. Do you like your muffin? After all questions took a moment to be processed by Tarak. The blueberry one. Yeah, Runabug came in and wanted to get you a cinnamon roll. But hey, how was I supposed to know what he wanted? It was a surprise. This time I didn't hesitate. With a flick of my wrist, I sent a splash of water across Yuka's face. The wolf recoiled, letting out a stream of expletives as he flew. "Ha, gotcha!" he growled, moving to splash me back, but I was already moving out of the way and under the water. Even underneath the surface, I could hear Thomas booming laughter, apparently having found amusement in our little game of chase. Yuka wasn't nearly as athletic in the water as he waded into the deeper end after me. With a flick of my tail, I zipped through the water, moving fast enough to touch his legs before he could grab me. It was a game I used to play back in grade school, swimming by just close enough to graze legs and make people squirm. I surfaced at the deep end, far beyond where our toes could reach the bottom. It seemed that Luca had the good sense not to follow me, instead pouting near the edge where the water was to his chest. "You gotta come out of there at some point," he called out, covering the edge of his muzzle with a hand to carry his voice. It must have been at Wyatt, because Tarek was still laughing, the bear having trouble catching his breath. "What? You can't come out here and get me?" I stuck my tongue out at him. Sure, it was childish, but the way his ears twitched frustration when I teased him was worth it. He growled impotently, visiting back and forth the wolf at the edge of his limits as his feet shuffled along the slope of the basin. I scrambled around on my back, swirling through the water in figure 8 as quickly as one might walk. It was gratifying being in my element for once. These two had lived in this winterscape they were built for. Now they're in my domain. My tail swing hit the water. The resulting splash caught in the wolf with a steamy spring. I could hear vaguely words say insults, meaning Coffee tried to get the worst of the water out of his headphone. He tried to move forward to break his way deeper, but he would scramble back every time just as the water reached his chin. "I can't swim," the wolf snapped, grumbling under his breath as he crossed his arms. "I don't see how that's my problem," I said with a sassy smirk, lifting my eyes as I watched the consternated canine. "Do not drown yourself, I will fetch him." Tarek had finally spoken, the bear getting up from his seat, wading through the water and past the wolf. My eyes opened wide as I realized what he was doing, the bear diving forward into the deep and straight in my direction. I let out a few surprised squeaks, but it was too late. Those large hands grabbed me from under the water, ensuring I wouldn't escape. Strong arms lifted me up, all the way out of the water. "Yeah!" Swimming around to no avail, Tarek's hands kept their tight grip on me as he brought me back to the saddles. "What? Am I allowed to have fun?" "Do not tease the wolf. You have already won." I couldn't argue, but not when he brought me down to give a gentle kiss. "Yeah, you oughta remember who controls your coffee supply while you're stuck here," the wolf said with a smirk, already settling back into place, his arms folded around the rocky edge. Said he had me there. I shouldn't push him too far unless I want to keep my habit. Like hell he's going to get an apology, though. He deserved every last blast I soaked him with. Tarek settled me against his side, his broken arm wrapped around me purposefully, like a restraint, the clear message for me not to cause more trouble. "Anyway," the wolf cleared his throat. "It's nice talking to you again," or something. He fiddled with his fingers, lacing them together before twiddling padded digits around each other. "You ought to come to my shop." "Oh?" The bear's brows lifted in mild surprise. "What? You don't want to?" "I do not like coffee." "Yeah, I remember that once. I serve more than just coffee. Like that muffin you got." Tarek fidgeted slightly, mentioning the muffin seeming to get him going as he zoned out. Yuka smirked, looking particularly amused with himself. "Still got that sweet tooth, huh?" "It is something I have not outgrown." I think it's kind of cute. It is. His ear twitched. A subtle hint of a blush started to creep over his white furred cheeks. A big guy like you going weak in the knees for candy? That's really cute. You could have stood it nearby, his smirk widening. Yeah, that was a button I used to press. He puffed up, leaning his muzzle, giving himself an air of overinflated confidence. Well, at least someone appreciates my shit here. Oh, I see. You just want time to bolster yourself since you're hurting for customers. He shrugged his shoulders, the water rolling off them as he moved. First of all, fuck you. Second, can you blame me? It's a black hole. I do eat a lot. See, besides, you can use the Wi-Fi while you're at my cafe. The what? He blurted in confusion, turning his head to me in my impromptu question. You can visit my cafe? After that, the last part. Wi-Fi? The single word was like a hammer being dropped on the glass of my mind. You had internet this entire time? Yeah, I had satellite hooked up. His head canted back, the wolf looking at me as if I were a weirdo. How the hell am I supposed to have a decent service out here otherwise? It's just as matter-of-factly as if it were a simple statement that should have been obvious to anyone. I stared at this wolf as if he were from a different planet. He didn't say anything when I was at the trade shop. You do know that I almost died, right? Tarek too. He sputtered, growing indignant as he fluffed himself up. How am I supposed to know you would try to kill yourself on that mountain? Besides, you didn't ask. I can't ask about things I don't know about. I squeaked back in exasperation as I felt the beginnings of a migraine starting to form behind my temples. You say that as if it's my problem. My expression screwed up, going cross-eyed for just a moment. Tarn's arm squeezed me, pulling me back as I subconsciously lunged for the wolf. Jeez. You don't need to go feral. Oh, you haven't begun to see feral. It's good that I wanted to keep what we had going here, otherwise I would probably have lost it by now. It also helped that Tarmac seemed to sense my intent simmering under the surface, his big arm redoubling on keeping me pinned against his side. He was upset. This is understandable. You can still use your Wi-Fi? Yes. We both stared at the bear, his words having completely derailed our conversation. What the hell did you just say? Nika spoke the question on my mind, as cruel as his wording was. Tarek tilted his head, his ears shriveling as he looked at his ex-boyfriend confusion. Wi-Fi. That's not how you pronounce it. It is not. Don't bother, he's not going to figure it out. Wi-Fi. He tossed the words around in his mouth as if trying to taste them. Why is there a fi? Chris, yeah. What is a fi? Nearby Yugo groaned loudly, the wolf looking like he was about to drop in the water and drown. It's just that water's connection to the internet. I see. He clearly didn't. His voice hesitation was all I needed to hear. Honestly, I'm glad he dropped the topic. I'm not sure I'm prepared to explain the majesty of the internet. Yugo groaned as he got up, shaking the worst of the water off of him as he headed to the entrance. Leave already? Yeah. He grumbled, pushing at his lower back, a few pops coming out of it as he stretched. I gotta get waterlogged if I stay in much longer. Besides, I gotta get back to get the ball shit bait. Don't be a stranger. Or do. I really don't care. He waved dismissively over the shoulder as he strolled out of the cave, gathering what looked like clothes before slipping out of sight. We should leave soon as well. As much as I love the water, even I knew when the color quits. Thomas' story had taken quite some time, and I was already starting to feel a little overcooked. A deep rumble in my stomach agreed with the sentiment. It seemed Thomas heard it and smelled forming all over his muzzle. So this was a huge video. We got to learn a lot of information about Tarwak and his past. We got to learn about practically everything about him, like from that scar on his lip. We know that his father caused that. So, start from the beginning. The elderly wolf is Yuka's adoptive father. And he was very nice and supportive of Tarwak, even going to the point of criticizing his father for the harsh ways he treats his son. And Yuka apparently is envious of Tarwak because he is the heir to the tribe. He's the chieftain's son, and he's about to inherit the tribe, the leadership of the tribe, and Yuka feels like he's nobody, and that Tarwak is a somebody. He feels useless, which is why he wants to leave the town, and he wants Tarwak to come with him, but Tarwak is hesitant about leaving the town because he's still, it's where he grew up. So he's not entirely against the idea of leaving. There's part of him that wants to leave, but there's another part of him where he wants to stay, and that part of him is keeping him here in the town. And that made Yuka really mad. But Yuka certainly has an inferiority complex because he feels like he's nothing in this town, and that by going to the big city and getting an education and a job, he'll be somebody. He'll be able to live life the way he wants to live life. Now, he wanted to go to Montreal in search of a good life. Now, that doctor is also from Montreal. He was a doctor over there in Montreal before the government in Canada transferred him over to this town. So did Yuka and the doctor meet up in Montreal before Yuka came back to the town? I wonder. Okay, so we got to see the father. Now, we already met the father last time. It was just Chris going through town. He already met the father, but apparently I don't think Chris is still aware that polar bear he met the other day was Tarwak's father. So his father does not like his son going out with another guy, and he believes that Tarwak is selfish and doesn't care about the tribe, that he only cares about himself, which Tarwak took a great offense to. And Tarwak very much loved his mother so much, and the way his father treated his mother, the way he treated and taught about his mother, really got Tarwak angry. His father said that his father told Tarwak that he got his behavior from his mother, that she was a free person as well. I was doing what she wanted and not what the tribe wanted, and that made Tarwak very angry to the point where he told his father that he had no idea what his mother saw in him. The father slapped him and disowned him. So he was able to start something new and he found someone said that he used to be at through his childhood with his grandparents, and apparently he over time he remodeled the building and did some renovations to it, and it ended up being his new home. And I think before he discovered that set, he would buy the place where Yuko worked at, and he got angry with Yuko because he felt that Yuko betrayed him by telling his father about their relationship, but his father basically cornered Yuko and intimidated him into telling him about their relationship. It's not like he just willingly came with his father and told him about the relationship. The father came in there and cornered Yuka and intimidated him into telling him what their relationship was. So Tark was extremely angry, and he almost assaulted Yuka there, but maybe he did, but I don't remember, but it looked like he did. But instead of doing that, he walked away and left. So I really enjoyed this bath scene because it seemed like both Tarvak and Yuka are starting to slowly get along again. I mean, those two were dating, but obviously they're dating different people now. Tarvak is with Chris and Yuka is with the doctor. So I guess it's too late for them to come together and restart as a couple again. But at least they can get along and hopefully at least remain friends like they used to be. And I like that Yuka and Chris were kind of playful here. I mean, despite the jabs and the insults, they seem to be kind of playful here. And Yuka kind of invited Chris to his cafe, hey, you're welcome to come to my cafe. Well, he kind of did, but again, he said, hey, you don't want to come? That's fine too. I don't care. So, this is a big update. Well, not update, but a video. This is a big video. We got to learn a whole lot about the characters and their past, and we got to see things from Tark's point of view. So, that's all I have for now. All the information for the game's description box below. Thank you all very much for watching. Goodbye.